Welcome back to Winners and Losers, the show that looks at the highs and the lows from around world football. This weekend, back in the hot seats, we finally got Van Straten on Football Daily.
Hey.
I can't believe my own eyes. Let's go straight into the talking point then, because it was Eden Hazard this week, isn't it, Pato?
Yes, he scored a hat-trick to hand Chelsea victory over Cardiff 4-1 and fire them to the top of the Prem. Just his second Premier League hat-trick and the first one since 2014. And you'll never guess what Sarri said afterwards. He said that Hazard could be the best in Europe.
He's actually had one too many cigarettes now. It's actually messing with his mind.
I don't know. I mean, Hazard's numbers this season are unbelievable.
They're not Lionel Messi, and he'll never be Lionel Messi.
I think they are pretty much Lionel Messi so far this season. He's got 5 goals and 2 assists in 307 minutes. That means he's scored a goal every 61 minutes. He's been involved in a goal every 44 minutes. That's 2 goals a game.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
What's going on?
It's almost like he won't be able to continue that form.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. He's had 8 shots, 6 of those have been on target, 5 of those have gone in.
Yeah,
so I do
unsustainable.
I do not expect this to last forever. And the first goal in particular in this game is so good.
Yeah, it is.
Like, he bangs it right in the bottom corner. It's actually amazing. And anyway, we can run a clip of Sarri talking about the Belgian after the game.
I think that he can become maybe the best player in Europe in the next 2 years. But I think they can improve and not to spend too much energy so far from the opposite goal.
So some interesting comments from Sarri there. What do you think of that? Where does Eden Hazard rank among European football royalty?
Well, I think we all thought he would score a lot of goals this season under Maurizio Sarri. Obviously, a very attack-minded coach, but he's still, for me, a fair distance off a level of Lionel Messi.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, I think Eden Hazard could take home sort of the Player of the Year for the Premier League this season, and he probably is the best player in the league.
Yeah.
On his day, anyway. But still, I think there are other talents in Europe that are slightly better. I think Neymar probably still pips him just, even though he's playing in a poorer league. Kylian Mbappe certainly closing in on that sort of second, third best player in the world title as well. And I know that Ronaldo hasn't started the season well, but he is going to set up ridiculous numbers this season at Juventus. So
yeah, fair point.
I think Eden is definitely in the top 5, but to suggest he can become of a similar ilk to Lionel Messi is ridiculous.
Yeah, fair enough. It's hard to disagree with that, but I do think that what Sarri said, where he was saying that maybe Eden Hazard could be thinking about like 40-goal seasons.
I don't think he's a 40-goal a season player.
I think he could easily be a 30-35 though.
Maybe goal involvements, but not goals.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
I'll give him goal involvements. But let's talk a little bit about the match, because Chelsea certainly dominated proceedings, didn't they? 77% possession, 18 shots to 6, had 7 on target in this one. It's almost as if Cardiff are definitely getting relegated, which they 100% are. Obviously, it means the club have won their first 5 Premier League games for just the 4th time. They did so in 2005, 2009 and 2010 before that. That's more than any other club. Conversely, Cardiff are on a dreadful run. They're now 7 games without a win. That's their worst record under Neil Warnock. But to be fair to Big Neil, I don't think they're expected to win away games at top 6 clubs, especially in the form Chelsea are under, because there were some other really good noticeable performances on the day, particularly from Olivier Giroud. Racked up 2 assists, 4 key passes, won all 3 of his aerial duels, unlucky not to score as well with a looping header. And big Cesar Azpilicueta, Dave at the back, he had 100 touches in this game, more than anyone else on the field, and sustained a 91% pass accuracy. The guy can do absolutely everything at the back, can't he? For me, Chelsea are now becoming legitimate 3rd title contenders alongside Liverpool and Manchester City. I think they're the only other side in the top 6 that can genuinely challenge those two for the title this season. I think Man United look average. I think Arsenal look particularly average, and Tottenham just seem to have lost a little bit of identity. I don't know what is really going on. We're obviously going to go and talk about them against Liverpool on the weekend, but they looked terrible.
Yeah.
I think Pochettino got it totally wrong. Not sure what he's trying to do there, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But for me, Chelsea look great, and I think Sarri has got them playing a brand of football not seen at Stamford Bridge in quite some time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Maybe since Ancelotti. But what do you guys think of Sarri's Chelsea and Eden Hazard? Do you think Eden Hazard can become the best player in Europe? I think it's a little bit mental. Let us know in the comments below.
Our first winners of the week are Arsenal. This comes from @Deadhead. finally, Arsenal might be getting a little bit of form.
Yeah, Unai Emery's men scraping, well, not really scraping, they were kind of well-deserved of a 2-1 away victory in Tyneside against Rafa Benitez's shambolic Newcastle side. With this victory, Arsenal have now won half as many games this season away from home as they did in the entirety of last season. Only won 4 away games in the Premier League last season. That is an absolute disgrace. And the game started pretty poorly, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
we
it was
were
dreadful.
sat on my roof terrace. It was Zach Jalab's 21st birthday. He had to do a shot for every goal, and I was disappointed at the lack of goals in the first half, and I was disappointed at the lack of shots. There was 0 shots on target from either side in the first half.
Yeah, it was dreadful.
What was going on? But then you brought on Lucas Torreira, didn't you? And I think that really helped you start to progress up the pitch and become a little bit more attacking. Obviously, we've hammered Granit Xhaka over the last few weeks, haven't we? But that free kick was sumptuous.
It's outrageous.
Absolutely
So far
glorious.
out.
And you have talked about it in the past. You like the fact that Xhaka has a bit more freedom when Torreira's in the side, because he does play through the lines really well, doesn't it?
Yeah, weirdly, Arsenal having a defensive midfielder in their lineup does make them more attacking because it gives everybody the freedom to go forward. The problem when it's Guendouzi and Xhaka, there were times in the first half where Xhaka was having to point and show Guendouzi where to go in order to build up properly, and that's a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, I think you definitely look much more comfortable when Lucas Torreira came on, and I think it helped Mesut Ozil's performance to some extent as well, didn't it?
Yeah, well, he actually hasn't really been creating much so far this season, but he did get a goal in this game, his 200th game for Arsenal. He's now got 38 goals and 66 assists in that time, which means he's been involved in over a goal every 2 games, which is pretty good as an attacking midfielder, and especially during this last period for Arsenal where they've been pretty dodgy. Created 3 chances in the match. That's his best tally of the season so far, and victory pulls Arsenal level with Spurs and Man United. So I think what we're seeing is a clear separation of tiers
definitely.
in the
3
top
and 3,
6. You've got
sure.
3 and 3. So I think that it will be one of those going for that 4th place, and the other 3 are pretty much nailed on. Anyway, Arsenal now don't face a top 16 until the start of November, so they've got an opportunity to build up a little bit of momentum going into the winter. What do you guys think? Where will Arsenal finish the season? Let us know in the comments below.
Our first loser was sent in by ToeSucker2001. Interesting username, and he's gone for Burnley.
Yeah, Burnley are in horrific form, and they lost 1-0 away at Wolves on Sunday, leaving them bottom of the league with just 1 point. Now, they were absolutely dominated by a promoted side. They had 7 shots all game. They had 41% of the ball. And on XG, the result was 2.6 to Wolves, 0.2 to Burnley. 0.2. Anyway, the only goal came in the hour. Doherty crossed to Jimenez, who turned the ball home off the post. And Joe Hart actually kind of had a decent game. It could have been much worse for the Clarets. He made 5 saves. That's 26 for the season. That's the most in the league. The real question is obviously whether he keeps his place when Pope or Heaton are both fit. And to be honest, I don't think he should. I think we have pretty good evidence that Joe Hart is not a great keeper.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree. I think I would start to utilise Pope, I think Heaton's okay, don't get me wrong, and Hart certainly does a job, but I think at his age, Nick Pope at least can grow into a long-term number 1 for Burnley.
Yeah, what we saw last season is that Pope is a really good fit for this
100%.
Burnley system. Whether he's like the greatest keeper in the world, he's great at Burnley.
Yeah.
Joe Hart has been bad everywhere for the last few years, and it's not that surprising that he's going to make a lot of saves when Burnley are getting peppered all day long. Like, Joe Hart's, he can catch, so he is going to make
100%.
some saves. But I mean, this is the thing with Burnley. Like, when you look at their defensive stats, they always look pretty good because they're always on the back foot. James Tarkowski in this game, 7 tackles and interceptions. Now, normally, we'd say that's great, but that's because you don't have the ball. And if you never have the ball, you're constantly having to make tackles and interceptions. They made 17 tackles as a side, won the aerial battle overall, which is not that surprising given the guys on the pitch. But Barnes, Vokes, Wood and Vidra, all their attackers, spent time on the pitch, managed 2 shots between them. Absolutely mental. So, I mean, they need to sort their attack out. They need to really sort their defence out. But at the moment, it looks like what we predicted, that Burnley were going to go down to the champ, seems to be pretty much on the cards.
Yeah, we all said it at Football Daily. Me, Pat and Chris all sat there a few weeks ago on Sunday Vibes and say Burnley are in real trouble going into this season. Everybody was praising Sean Dyche to the hilt last season, and he did do an okay job, but they were performing way above expected goals. And now it's finally come back to bite them. We're not surprised that they're struggling, and they're going to continue to struggle all season while they play an outdated brand of football under Sean Dyche. It's just not working for them at all. They haven't won a game in 90 minutes since April the 14th.
Oh my God.
That's not good enough. That's 16 games ago. And I don't know how long this form can continue with Sean Dyche in charge. And I feel like he's kind of unsackable at Burnley. They're not going to get rid of him.
No,
I mean, he's taken him down once and they kept hold of him, so they'll probably let him take him down again and then hope to come back up, which is worrying for me if you're a Burnley fan. But let's talk a little bit about Wolves, because they've moved up to 9th with that win, 8 points from the opening 5, and they're 5 of the toughest fixtures of any team in the league, really. They've started the season with some really, really tough games. I think Joe Hart, post-match, said that this is the best promoted side he'd ever played against. And it's hard to disagree. They are playing a brilliant brand of football under Nuno Espirito Santos. And we talked about Mendy and Holebas being some of the best fullbacks in the league at the start of the season. Holebas certainly overperforming what we were expecting from him. But let's just mention Johnny Otto as well in that Wolves backline. Obviously, they acquired him in the summer, and I think a lot of us were like, Barry Douglas had a good season last year in the Championship. Why get rid of him in favour of Johnny Otto? But Johnny Otto has started really well. Yesterday, 4 dribbles, 1.6 key passes, nearly 5 tackles and interceptions he's averaging per 90. Now, for a newly promoted left-back, usually you're expected to be under the cosh a lot, so you are going to have high tackles and interception numbers. But Johnny Otto looks really good on the overlap going forward for Wolves, and I think Wolves are going to be in for a mid-table season. We kind of said that as well, so it's not massively surprising, but they go away to Man United, I think, next week. Burnley are at home to Bournemouth. That is an absolute must-win for Burnley. They cannot go 17 games without a win under Sean Dyche. Not good enough. And Bournemouth are on surprisingly good form as well.
Yeah, they are.
Because we had them pegged as a potential relegation candidate, but they are totally disproving us. So Burnley in trouble, Wolves flying. There we go.
Our second and final winners of the week come from @Stevens Surprise, and of course, it has to be Liverpool, the huge fixture from the weekend, and they are rolling right now.
Absolutely flying. Their 5th win of the season, only the 3rd time in history that Liverpool have won all of their opening 5 fixtures in a top-flight season. It happened in 1990-91 and 78-79 as well. Klopp must be very, very happy. Obviously, they're second in the league as well, only behind on goal difference. Chelsea have 10, Liverpool have 9, so even that's pretty close. Obviously, they open the scoring through that looping Gigi Wijnaldum header. A terrible bit of goalkeeping, it has to be said, though, by Michel Vorm. Absolutely flapping.
Ospina-esque.
Absolutely flapping on the line. Roberto Firmino got the second as well before he got that horrible eye gouge from Jan Vertonghen.
It's so deep in his eye.
So deep. It looks like Jan Vertonghen is wearing his head as a bowling ball.
Yeah, it's like you hold a bowling ball. It's up to the knuckle.
It's disgusting. But talking about Roberto Firmino, it's a shame for him because he's now been directly involved in 61 Premier League goals for Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp. That's 16 more than any other player, which is really impressive given the form of Mo Salah last season. But they were superb on the day. I actually think the scoreline seriously flattered Tottenham. This could have genuinely been 6 or 7. The amount of chances that Liverpool butchered was a shambles.
Yeah, Poch afterwards said that he was not disappointed with the result and the game just showed how competitive the Premier League is. And the only way that makes sense to me, if he says he's not disappointed, is if he understands that this was kind of his fault. Like, the players kind of did their best, but they were on a losing bet the whole game. Like, Trippier was a weird selection. Well, Trippier was a weird selection. Like, we've said this recently, people don't want to kind of accept it because Trippier, he's a very good attacking fullback, but he cannot get up and down the flank quickly enough, particularly against this front three. I think they should have played the back three, which is what they did against Watford. And you know what? While they lost against Watford, they looked far more defensively solid. They got that 3-0 win against United a few weeks ago. But at the time, I think everyone pointed out that they got battered in the first half, and that game could have turned out very differently. Then they lost to Watford, and then in this game, it seems like Poch just kind of banked on, you know, Harry Winks coming back from injury and having a blinder, Moussa Dembele coming back from international duty and being ready to go. Very, very strange to
Yeah.
me. Now, last season, they lost 5 out of 10 games against top 6 sides, and they need to start to win those big games if they really want to challenge. That's how they make up ground, because generally in the past, they've steamrolled the rest of the league. Now, 7 of their starting lineup were in the World Cup semi-finals, so I suppose it's possible there's a little bit of fatigue. Obviously, Son only came back in this game after being away as well. So it has been quite a trying period for Spurs' squad depth, and as we've acknowledged before, their squad depth is some of the worst among the top sides. Liverpool, though, pretty much dealt with Eriksen with no trouble at all, and a half-fit Harry Kane. Spurs could not handle Liverpool's front three. Joe's absolutely right. If they'd made better decisions, Mane and Salah, in the second half, this could have been a cricket score. And they really missed Hugo Lloris. Obviously, that Gigi Wijnaldum goal. They faced 10 shots on target in a Premier League home game for the first time since January 2014.
It's not good enough.
Versus Manchester City. Absolutely crazy. And in the air, they're in serious trouble. 5 out of the 6 goals they've conceded this season in the Premier League have come from headers.
It's not good enough, man.
There's a lot of work ahead for Poch. I don't know what he's going to do.
10 shots on target flatters them as well. The amount of 3-on-2s that Liverpool butchered. If Salah and Mane had their heads screwed on properly and actually made some correct decisions, it could have been even more. The amount of times that they either passed our play or didn't opt to pass to the other one of them. They passed to Naby Keita when Salah's in 15 yards of space, or passed to nobody when Mane's in 15 yards of space. It was unbelievable. Tottenham got it totally wrong in this game.
Yeah.
The back two was a disaster. The fullbacks were way too high at the pitch. The amount of time that Liverpool played one ball through the channels and was suddenly 3-on-2 or 2-on-2 was a disaster for Pochettino. He kind of used Eric Dyer as a pivot in midfield, and he was awful. He was diabolically bad in there. And then he sometimes slotted into a back three and it didn't really work. It was kind of, where was Davinson Sanchez when you needed him? Vibes, especially when you're going to be playing a team as athletic as Liverpool. I would have definitely utilised Davinson Sanchez in this one. And maybe, like you said, potentially use Serge Aurier as well. I think he would have been a better option if that's how you're going to use,
at least pace-wise.
It just didn't work at all from Pochettino, and it's a little bit of a worrying trend at the start of the season. They lost to Watford, weren't great against United, might have smashed us, but from all accounts, that first half, we're lucky to go in 0-0. And then in this game, it could have been 5 or 6-0. It really could have been 5 or 6-0. And Pochettino had a horrible summer, has had a poor start to the season. If I'm a Tottenham fan, I'm getting worried. Because if it wasn't for Lucas Moura carrying you through the start of the season, I don't see where the goals are coming from. Harry Kane's numbers have fallen off a cliff. And you've got nobody to replace him. He now can't take a break, Kane. By the time it's Christmas, he's off in a stretcher. Seriously. They're a mess, Tottenham Hotspur. What are your thoughts on the Tottenham Hotspur situation under Mauricio Pochettino, and how good are Liverpool looking this season? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Our final losers of the day then, an interesting one here. This was sent in by Carlos Jimenez. It's Bayer Leverkusen, Pat.
Yeah, they lost 3-1 away at Bayern Munich, and that in itself wouldn't be that bad, except for the fact they're now bottom of the Bundesliga on 0 points.
The league's a mess.
They've lost all 3 of their games so far this season. They've scored 2, they've conceded 8. Absolutely insane.
Shocking.
And to be honest, in this game, it looked like it was going to be great early doors. They got a penalty after 3 or 4 minutes. And Kevin Folland missed it. Neuer saved it. They had a couple of shots on the rebound. Both of those were blocked. And then the referee kind of waved everyone to stop, ordered it to be retaken because the Bayern players all encroached on the area. And this time Vendel took it and banged it in. So it looked like it was going to be a difficult day for Bayern. But within 15 minutes, they were ahead. Tolisso got a goal.
Yeah.
Robben scored an absolute screamer.
Yeah.
And then it was all one-way traffic for the rest of the game. Leverkusen had just 3 shots before James wrapped it up on the 89th minute. Bayern had 15 shots and 5 on target.
Jesus.
More on target than Leverkusen had in total. Leverkusen had under 24% possession. They completed 259 passes in the whole game. Bayern completed 301 in the final third alone.
That's shocking.
It was truly dominant. And Leverkusen, I have no idea how they're going to get out of this hole.
I know, and they're not the only ones in the Bundesliga. The Bundesliga is an absolute disease at the moment. It's a shambles up there, honestly. 4 of last season's top 6 are in the bottom half of the table already. I think only Dortmund and Munich, obviously Munich going to steamroll the league, but only those 2 really remain up the top. To make matters worse for Leverkusen, Bellarabi was sent off for an awful tackle.
It's horrific.
Horrific. If you haven't
so
seen it already, go and check it out. I think Uli Hoeneß, it was so bad after the game that Uli Hoeneß Hygienist said he should be banned for like 3 months.
Yeah.
It's awful, awful stuff. And to make matters worse, they haven't got any depth at all, have they, Bayern Munich, really, at fullback areas. So Rafinha was starting a left-back in this game.
Yeah, he was.
And they obviously sold Bernat, didn't they, in the summer as well. He did mark Leon Bailey out of the game, but he's going to obviously miss a few weeks now with that serious ankle injury. And he's not the only one that picked up a serious injury. Obviously, Tolisso snapped his ACL in this one, so he's probably going to be out for the entire season, a proper Benjamin Mendy injury. He's scored 5 in his last 9 as well, one of Bayern's better performing players at the start of the season. It's such a shame for Tolisso as well because he's really surprised me with his quality level at the top tier.
Yeah.
When he signed last season, I wasn't sure where he would fit in at Bayern, but he's become one of their outstanding players. So It's such a shame that he's going to miss an entire season. Bayern are now 2 points clear at the top of the table. But I think they're going to run away with it this year. I think the quality in the Bundesliga is an absolute shambles. We talked about it on Continental Club, I think, in terms of the level between PSG and Bayern Munich and the rest of the league being poor. Well, if the rest of the league in Ligue 1 is poor, the rest of the league in the Bundesliga is equally as poor.
Yeah, it's dreadful.
Some terrible teams in the Bundesliga this year. So it's such a shame as well, because once upon a time the Bundesliga was absolutely banging, but sort yourself out. Bayer Leverkusen, Schalke, you're embarrassing yourselves in a great league. So that's it for another week of winners and losers. But before you do anything else, make sure you check out Euro Roundup. Pato, what are you speaking about on that?
I believe we've got Inter Milan. We've got Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, getting off the mark at Juventus. And pretty much all the other big games that we haven't covered on winners and losers. So make sure you head over to Eurofootball Daily and check that out.
Yep. Goodbye.